guidance on revenue and half of EPS.
A miss on preliminary earnings sent SMCI stock tumbling.
You saw the price action in Microsoft, you saw the price action in Meta.
But the positive AI growth from some of the biggest names in tech this week could be a sign of future strength.
Some of the bigger players are adopting SMCI's equipment.
MarketBeat's Gabriel Ossorio-Mazzilli takes a deep dive into SMCI with a look at this company from all sides.
Volatility can serve both as risk and as opportunity.
Is this dip in SMCI a risk you're willing to take, especially ahead of the company's full earnings report next week? Let's dive in. Gabriel, so glad to have you back on the channel talking about a stock we've talked about before, and that is SMCI. It's been a little bit of a wild week for SMCI.
It has. The company just released their preliminary quarterly earnings that are going to be announced sometime in May. Now, this is good news in disguise because now they're not announcing that they're going to be late to the reporting as they have been over the past 6 to 8 months. So I guess they're getting their stuff together, I would say, financially, management, with their new auditors and their new accounting teams. So this could be taken as a positive. However, there are some negatives in the data that just came out in preliminary terms. So that is why the stock is kind of in a roller coaster for the past week. It dropped by around 10%. It is recovering on the bigger tech earnings, but nonetheless, there are some risk and perils to watch out for.
And that's what we want to dive into today is what about the earnings report has investors so spooked right now? And then we'll also dive into whether this stock is something you might want to consider or stay away from a little bit later on in the video. But let's start with some of the factors that had the stock dropping this week because of that preliminary earning report.
Well, you could look at it in two ways, right? Is this an issue happening with super microcomputers, services, and products? Or is this something that has more to do with the macroeconomic events or the tech sector as a whole? And I would say it's around 80-20, right? You could place 80% of the blame on macroeconomic factors and then 20% of the blame maybe on the management and the company itself. Now, what I mean by that is in the preliminary report, they did say that the cause of lower revenues and lower EPS guidance has to do with new orders being delayed into the next quarter. And that makes sense. I mean, data centers and heavy equipment and all the stuff that SMCI sells and leases to its customers, you know, those are kind of long-term plays, kind of capital intensive for anyone that wants to play into AI and data centers. So it makes sense to say, well, we don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs and with the negotiations in China. So we have no idea if tariffs are going to affect the demand for AI, demand for new tech and whatnot. So might as well roll out the orders, take a breather, and then when everything becomes a bit more clear, we can resume those orders and resume business as usual. So that is what SMCI quoted as being the issue for lower revenue guidance and lower EPS guidance. So if this was anything to do or anything to deal with the quality of the product, with the quality of the services, I would say maybe SMCI is in trouble. But it does sound like it is a wise decision from customers to delay orders and not necessarily say, we're not going to deal with SMCI anymore. We're just saying, not yet. We want to see a bit more clarity in the macro and a bit more clarity of what their own businesses might go through in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, I feel like you said, this is more of a macroeconomic discussion on the pausing of data center construction that is impacting more than just SMCI. There's been several projects paused because of that, like you said, hesitancy to, is the investment in data centers what we need right now for AI, or are there new advancements that are going to make these massive data centers maybe not as essential? Let's talk a little bit about what this means for the broader AI market. Are we hearing more of that kind of changing tone, or really more of just a pause, we're not sure right now?
Well, again, you could look at it in two ways. You could look at the soldiers or the generals. And by that, I mean the generals just reported earnings this week, being Meta, Microsoft, and Apple, Amazon, right? So those are big AI players in today's market. And You saw the price action in Microsoft, you saw the price action in Meta. They reported good numbers and good revenue growth and good user growth when it comes to their AI services. So I would say that if the leaders are making out of this okay, then eventually the soldiers or the laggards, right, might follow up on this new theme. And of course, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a little bit more time and patience and perhaps more volatility in the case of SMCI. But I think it'll make it out okay. I think that the long-term growth and adoption of AI is here to stay. In fact, Microsoft CEO reported that up to 20 to 30% of the company's code and the company's products are now being run by AI. So eventually, coders and programmers are going to be moving into the function of watching how AI builds code and watching the quality of the code being built rather than them being in the trenches writing that code. So by that I mean AI is here to stay, AI growth is here to stay, and I think that data centers are going to be a massive play a massive role in this new theme, and that is where SMCI comes into play. However, the risk of further delays in new orders is also a reality that investors should watch out for. And I think that as the tariff deals get passed, or there's a certain resolution, especially with China, I think that those new orders are going to be a lot more clear. The schedules of demand are going to be a lot more clear. And that could be a major tailwind for SMCI.
Yeah, we'll get into some of the risks to keep in mind if you are deciding to invest in this stock right now on the most recent dip. I want to talk just a little bit more about the competitive space in AI. SMCI is known for data centers. What other competitors are out there? And is it possible that if there is something going on that's a part of SMCI's business in particular, that some of these bigger players might turn to other competitors for their data center construction?
Well, there are competitors. SMCI is not a monopoly. But the one thing that differentiates SMCI from other names is the way that they build their technology, right? This is a new cooling system that is being adopted by companies like NVIDIA. They landed a new deal over the past quarter. Japanese tech companies are adopting SMCI's services and equipment as well. So I think that the trend is favoring SMCI in the landscape. It's favoring as a sort of business moat, right? It's not, bulletproof. Anybody could come in and develop a new technology. But so far, it looks like some of the bigger players are adopting SMCI's equipment. So I would lean on that when building a bullish thesis, but also keep in mind that the short-term tailwinds are very present. You can see it in the preliminary results for lower guidance on revenue and pretty much half of EPS that were expected. And as you know, where EPS goes, so does the stock price. And I think that today, such a discount in the stock might have already priced in those contractions, but we don't know where the bottom might be. So that's something to keep in mind when offsetting some of the optimism in the long-term views for investors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should talk about the stock action too on SMCI because the stock has seen so many moves in 2025. The most recent move, of course, a big drop, but before that, it also had a big boost too. What's behind some of the different moves we've seen?
Well, the upside moves, you could blame them or credit them on the resolution of the quote-unquote accounting fraud that SMCI was being accused of. They did replace the accounting team. They did name a new CFO. They did get a new auditor. Things are turning out okay. And as we mentioned in previous videos, the financials actually look okay. There is no evidence of any wrongdoings or of any fraud, especially when it comes to the cash flow statement. As we mentioned, the net income statement, you can manipulate a little bit with some outside factors, right? But cash flow, that is as transparent as it gets. So the company did fix those issues, and that is why the stock rallied by double digits and nearly triple digits over the past quarter or two. Now, the downside move, again, is driven by the surprise of these preliminary numbers that are not that optimistic and not that bullish for the stock. But then again, big tech earnings came out, and up with Microsoft and the other names, SMCI seem to recover a little bit. And I think that has to do with the connection of, okay, Microsoft and Apple and Meta reported better than expected AI department growth, right? And of course, any tailwind, any rate of growth that is in the AI space is eventually going to trickle down into the necessity for data centers, because AI is simply the end product while data is the tool with which you build that product. So again, you can't have the developments in AI, you can't have the AI growth being seen in these bigger tech names without the tools that a company like SMCI provides. So I think that, again, the relationship between big tech and small tech like SMCI is very clear. You can see it in the price action. But again, I think that the real catalyst will be when the actual earnings come out and when the earnings call is in, what management says as far as comments in the future is going to be a lot more important than whatever is going on today and whatever tariff fears are out there in the market. I think that guidance is going to be the key pivotal point in the coming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to get into those fears here too. I think the other positive for SMCI is if they actually make that earnings date. I think right now it's estimated or even confirmed at May 6th. So it's coming up very soon, and they've missed so many earnings that if they just show up on the right day, there's some consumer confidence in that too, right?
Absolutely. And I'm not writing out the fact that they could be late again. They did, like I said, change the management team or the accounting team, and they did get a new auditor. So, presumably they should be able to get the results in time, but I don't have a crystal ball, and neither does anybody else unless you're inside the company. So that's another risk that I would keep on the table. But if they do meet the dates and they do report on time, I think that is going to build a lot more confidence as well moving forward in the stock, because keep in mind, at today's prices, some of that discount is pricing in the fact that they might miss earnings again or might miss the reporting date. They might delay because of XYZ reason. So I think that once that fear is priced out of the stock, it might see a little bit of a recovery. And then the real catalyst comes when tariffs are resolved, and then guidance can come in a bit higher, a bit more optimistic, reflecting the actual state of the industry and the actual state of the business without the fears, without the uncertainty. So I think that if you weigh it on a scale, on a risk-reward metric, I think that the reward is a lot higher than the risk, but you should also be careful in the short term at least. Manage your size, manage your time exposure. If you can find a hedge somewhere, hedge it out, but this is not a stock you want to give up on only to then realize, my gosh, I should have been in this all along. It was so clear.
I want to talk about some of the caution for investors out there if they're thinking about getting into SMCI, just because the entry point seems attractive compared to where the stock has been before. What risks do you need to keep in mind as an investor if you do choose to follow this stock?
Well, one of the main risks is actually a double-sided coin, right? It's volatility. The stock has been volatile over the past year, as we all know. So volatility can serve both as risk and as opportunity, depending on how you manage it, how you time it, and what your time horizon is. Now, SMCI is not a retirement stock by all means, but it is a stock that could bring on a beneficial growth spur to your portfolio if you manage to get into the right price and you manage to weather the volatility by adjusting your size, by hedging again, if you can find a hedge somewhere. That would be my point of view on SMCI. Because as I said, volatility is risk, but it's also opportunity. And of course, when all of these speed bumps get cleared out of the way, volatility should be a lot more compressed in the future. But again, we have to clear them. We have to get a lot more clarity in the future guidance as far as the industry goes, as far as AI demand, data center demand, and also the big event, which is China. What is going to happen with China? and the US and the way that they're setting up the trade deals right now.
Yeah, speaking of trade, I want to talk about SMCI and traders. There's a lot of options trading going on with this stock. If you want to learn more about options trading, check out this free report from MarketBeat.com all about options trading and how to make it work for your portfolio. You can scan the QR code or click the link in the description of this video to get that free report right now on MarketBeat.com. So Gabriel, let's talk about SMCI and options. Is there a lot of short interest on this stock?
There is a significant amount of short interest for SMCI, which could also create what's known as a short squeeze, right? When the short sellers hit the max pain point, they're forced to close their positions, which involves buying back the stock. So there are the momentum buyers getting in and then the short sellers getting out by buying back the stock. So that creates a double tailwind when it comes to upside momentum. And you did see a lot of institutional buying as of the past quarter, and some happening this quarter, which, by the way, only is made up by April so far. And again, you might see further option buying in the call side as momentum picks up, as some of these catalysts are moved out the way in a more clear direction, so that investors can see where the bias is heading for SMCI. So again, you have a lot of gauges to keep track of, but if you want to remain independent, an independent thinker, an independent strategist, I would say watch out for guidance. That earnings call is going to carry a lot of importance coming up, especially if analysts ask the right questions. And again, it's up to management to make or break that day and the future of the stock, I would say.
Yeah, I think the future of the stock, like you said, because of earnings, is still a wild card of where it could go. Gabriel, you've talked on this channel about SMCI several times before, and I think you were encouraging our viewers to buy right before its last really bullish upside move in this stock too. So there is money to be made, like you said, but the long term and the even immediate future is really riding on this earnings report coming up. Really good analysis for us, Gabriel. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for watching on MarketBeat. Let us know what you think about SMCI and some of the other big tech players that have had so many huge moves this week. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and maybe if you made a little more money this week because of all of these big moves, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us, everyone. As always, happy investing.